like to call the regular session for the regular meeting of September 12th, 2024 to order. I thank the live simultaneous Spanish interpreters for joining us, and we are live streaming our meeting. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Ms. Applegate?
Here.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Here.
Ms. Parker?
Here.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Dr. Varda?
Here.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Is there a motion regarding tonight's meeting agenda?
I move to approve the September 12th agenda as presented in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any objection? It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda of September 12, 2024 as presented in board docs. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Ms. Applegate?
Yes.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
The agenda is approved. As we start our meeting tonight, I ask that you join me in a moment of silence to show our respect, love, and solidarity with Apalachee High School, the site of a deadly school shooting last week. Thank you. Now we are going to turn to honors, recognitions, and proclamations of the board. As we do, I want to acknowledge the loss of Wayne Carl this week at the age of 94. Dr. Carl was the namesake of Wayne Carl Middle School. He served as assistant superintendent in Jeffco from 1987 to 1994 and went on to serve as superintendent before retiring in 1997. His family has expressed to us how honored he was to have a middle school named after him, and we are deeply grateful for Dr. Carl's contributions to the Jeffco community. And now we have quite an audience here, a lot more than we had last week, right? And it is our pleasure right now to recognize students, staff, community members, and schools for their achievements and contributions to our community. So we'll move into honors and recognition. And for our first recognition of the evening, I will hand it over to Director Kenworthy.
Thank you, President Parker. Our first recognition of the evening, the Board of Education is pleased to honor the Department of School Safety, Dakota Ridge High School, and Chatfield High School for their efforts to support and uplift our Jeffco community through their Quarry fire response. As parts of southern Jefferson County were called to evacuate in late July due to the growing Quarry fire, local, state, and federal agencies partnered with our school district to provide support and refuge to the community. Jeffco Public Schools in particular responded to the Quarry fire in several ways, including, first, one of our area high schools, Dakota Ridge High School, was designated as an official evacuation center for families in Littleton. Chatfield Senior High School was open for the use of firefighters so they could rest between shifts. Both sites provided safe refuge. Our school staff personally coordinated the setup, care, coverage, and served as goodwill ambassadors throughout the evacuation period. Second, our Family Response Service team supported the families and staff of Jeffco Public Schools. Those who were affected by the fire could call or email the Family Response Service team to be connected to resources. And finally, our Department of School Safety and our Emergency Dispatch Center committed to protecting the safety and well-being of our students, families, staff, and community. The Jeffco Emergency Dispatch Center prides itself on being available 24/7 to ensure accurate and timely emergency response. I know that I speak for myself and several others in the room when we say how proud we are that we are able to partner with community agencies in order to meet the needs of our whole community. And so I'm just really grateful for the work that went on in the face of a fire and emergency. Not anything that any of us planned, but we rose to the occasion. So gratitude. And I will ask now that the following leaders and their dedicated teams join me at the front of the room to receive the Jeffco Thrives recognition. Kim Keller, Dakota Ridge High School Principal, John Thanos, Chatfield Senior Principal, Samantha Holman, Community Superintendent, and Jeff Pearson, Executive Director of the Department of School Safety. Come on up. There it is. We're going to have you come on up with your teams, and we want to try to get some photos, so let me organize the chaos. Let us start with Kim Keller from Dakota Ridge High School and Dakota Ridge Friends. Where are you? This is our group. Hey, awesome. These are for you. Yeah, you're welcome. Can we grab a picture? Thank you so much. Next, we will recognize John Thanos and Chatfield's team. Where are they? You're right there. I haven't made it to Chatfield yet, I'm sorry. And your team. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Claps. Is she here? Samantha Holman's not here, but so we will make sure that she gets her reward. Let's clap for Samantha. And finally, Jeff Pearson and his team Jeff's our Executive Director of the Department of School Safety. Thank you so very much. Big claps. Jeff, would you like to introduce your team?
You all may know, but this is a lot of our patrol team for our patrol division, along with probably the two most key individuals that make this work. We're Jimmy Coker and Bill Robbins, our emergency management team. But as you all know, they're around 24/7. We manage the district with our dispatch center to partner with our law enforcement agency. So thank you. This group is amazing, and we take care of all of your kids and your communities. So we appreciate you recognizing us tonight. Thank you.
And now I will hand it over to Director Applegate.
I feel like I should come take the mic after that. Well, the Board of Education is pleased to honor our next group, and I'm really excited for this. We are here tonight to honor our Everitt Middle School science teacher, Chelsea Galvez-Estevez, in recognition of her classroom sustainability work and the food waste project. I understand Christy and several of her students are joining us tonight, so if you guys want to make your way to the front of the room to receive the Our People, Our Strength recognition. So with the focus on sustainability and creative connections with our local businesses, Chelsea is a great example of the ingenuity of our teachers. She's engaged our students in a community problem-solving project focused on food waste in the cafeteria. Groups of students work together to implement these solutions aligned to the class learning outcomes, including a partnership with local small permaculture-based urban dairy farm in Golden. And in addition, there were several student-led projects around the theme of environmental sustainability. Chelsea has invited several of her food waste project students to join us tonight, and I would like to invite Chelsea to take a moment to tell us more about her class, student-led environmental sustainability projects, and highlight the work of her students.
Okay, you guys. So this project basically all started with my first hour, and it happened very organically. We watched a video on what young activists were doing to help our planet and our environment. And then they were like, what can we do? What can we do to help our community? Sorry if I get emotional, because they just ran with it. We had our group who basically spearheaded our entire composting team at Everitt Middle School. They painted trash bins to make sure our cardboard paper was being recycled properly, our plastic was being recycled properly. Just like Mrs. Applegate said, we had another group, and I do have to give names here, I'm so sorry, but the first individual was Madeline from our first hour, and she helped with all of our, and Devonay, right? But you weren't my first hour, but helped recognize recycling here at Everitt, and they helped set up the lunchroom. Then moving to Lily's group, they spearheaded what Miss Applegate said, to literally contact the goat farm in Golden to get our food waste taken to that goat farm to help not only their community, but our community as well. Then moving into, we had Kennedy and Laura. These two individuals, they actually got a hold of Solar Decathlon to help get solar panels for our entire middle school. So they had a whole entire pledge, and they pitched their entire pledge to see if we could get solar panels for Everitt. Moving on to Lorelei. Lorelei definitely spearheaded our composting team. She got posters out. She made announcements at lunch and made sure that we got a composting system set up at Everitt. Then Cassidy, she went out and fundraised to get money. Yeah, it was awesome. She went out door to door to raise money to get more recycling bins for our school. Okay, moving on to Curtis and Tyler and Henry. Henry's part of his project, he was focused on carbon emissions. He reached out to our principal and he made sure that we got signs that said, no idling here at Everitt to cut down on carbon emissions at our school. Curtis and Tyler, they, just like Ms. Applegate said, spearheaded our entire food waste initiative. They made an entire video that our entire school watched to cut down on food waste, and people listened. Then we moved on to Colton, Clayton, and Wiley. Their entire group, they reached out to the district as well. They recognized that Chromebooks were an issue where students were maybe basically not using their Chromebooks properly. They researched the entire carbon footprint that Chromebooks take to make and realized, wait, there's an issue here. There's something going on. Why are we allowing just Chromebooks to be made and made and made? Maybe we should rethink our law or our rule here in the district. And they reached out to the district, and thank you for listening, district, because these are such powerful voices, and we literally we couldn't have done it without them. And it's just fantastic what they have done. So thank you for being here.
So stay up here one more second, guys, because what you guys have done is pretty incredible. And as someone who has her career in sustainability, I just want to say thank you, because it's really encouraging to those of us who are a little bit more your senior to see the passion and ingenuity and creativity that's coming out of the work you all are doing. So thank you so much. A special thank you to all of you, and thank you for being a leader and giving these kids the tools they need to really be creative and really prepare you for what post-secondary successes will come your way. So thank you so much. Congratulations, you guys. And now I will pass it to President Parker.
Thank you. I am so excited to continue a theme here on climate and environment and sustainability. And our next honoree is a student that I had the pleasure of meeting last year. She sent me an email asking if we could get together. And, I'm always excited when I can sit down with a student. As she told me her ideas for the future, she started to tell me a little bit about what she's done already in her very short life. So let me get you started on the things that Miss Madhvi Jitor has done in her life. She's a Lakewood High School student. We're honoring her today. One thing that she's done, one major accomplishment, is she had an article in People magazine for her Earth Day project. Will Madhvi please come up and you can just stand in front of the tables here so people can see who you are as I tell more about the wonderful things you've done. Ever since childhood, Madhvi has envisioned being an environmental crusader and has fought to bring awareness to the toll plastic pollution is taking on our environment and to push policymakers into creating laws to curb its use. For the past 8 years, Madhvi, who is known as the No Plastic Ninja, she has a black belt in Taekwondo, and she published a children's book, Is Plastic My Food? And I believe you might have been 6 when you wrote that, 6 or 5. Oh, so, okay. So she wrote a book, Is Plastic My Food? She's spoken about the environment at the United Nations and collected thousands of signatures to ban styrofoam lunch trays in her school district in 2019. So you can see how Jefferson County has continued the work that you started there. It was a very big win for the public, eliminating over 28 million styrofoam trays from landfills. Her success on the county level emboldened her to push for even broader legislation, and in January 2024, a new state law, the Colorado Plastics Pollution Reduction Act, banning styrofoam containers and single-use plastic bags, that this then eighth grader helped champion, and it went into effect. And I know, as someone who has been to the legislature and testified on quite a few bills, I couldn't believe the list of bills that you have testified on. So in her own words, Madhvi explains her drive as adults are going along as though it's business as usual, but children are the ones who are going to inherit this planet. Plastic pollution is literally everywhere, says Madhvi, but I'm optimistic as well as very determined, and I'm never going to give up. So before we clap, I just want to say a few more things. Madhvi has a website herself, and she does have a list of her accomplishments, and I think it's 6 or 7 or 9 pages long, okay? And in fact, you weren't idle this summer. I saw that August 19th, you were Time Magazine's Kid of the Year. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm not finished talking about you yet, okay? And I want you to see how comfortable she is talking because she's been in front of the UN General Assembly. She's been to Geneva. She's been to India. She's been to Bangladesh. She's been to Lisbon. Literally, as I was talking to her, I said, gee, you're our local Greta Thunberg. And she said, yeah, I am. I was down at the Capitol with Greta when she was here. Okay? So anyway, Madhvi, if you have more to tell us right now, go for it as I come down with your award.
I think this microphone's working. Okay, there we go. We got it. So, yeah, thank you so much, Board President Ms. Mary Parker and all board members. And I'm so glad to have this recognition. And I'm also very glad that Jeffco Public Schools is very sustainability forward and has heeded to all the changes that I've done and recognizing myself as well as everyone else who is doing these amazing things that are climate related. So thank you so much.
And can you imagine? Just imagine. It's like nothing compared. What's the name of your website?
Okay, my website is www.madhvi4ee.com. So modv4ee.com. So make sure to check it out for like all my accomplishments. Thank you.
And for the next award, I'm going to pass it over to Director Reed.
Our final celebration of the evening, the Board of Education is pleased to honor and recognize Reg Cox and the Lakewood Connects organization for their efforts to build community and for their contributions to provide extraordinary experiences for Jeffco students. Will Reg please join us at the front of the room to receive the Our Community, Our Legacy recognition? Founded in 2016 by Reg Cox, the primary purpose of Lakewood Connects is to build partnerships through the city of Lakewood between schools, businesses, churches, and local government for the greater good of the community. As city connector, Reg Cox works in the community to be responsive to new needs while enhancing and expanding services already started in the area of education and literacy, capital projects, homelessness, and other current topics of public interest. Lakewood Connects expanded the WizKid after-school programs from 9 to 15 sites in 2016-17, including all 7 Title I schools in the city of Lakewood to improve academic scores, enrollments, and school success. Since 2016, Lakewood Connects has worked to fulfill the needs of low-income children and families through partnering with Title I family liaisons to establish 2 food banks, 12 after-school clubs, and 5 parent training programs, so more students and their families thrive and succeed. Additionally, Lakewood Connects has served on the Jefferson County Community Health Network Board in order to accomplish the 2017 Healthy Community Goals by creating plans to lower childhood obesity, improve insurance access, and quality health care for all members of the community. Over the years, Lakewood Connects has evolved as an organization with a focus on building partnerships and connections between local schools and their neighborhoods for the good of the community. Reg Cox has personally served on the school district system planning groups and supports positive relationships with school leaders, the Jeffco Board of Education, and Superintendent. Please join us in celebrating Reg Cox and Lakewood Connects for championing programs and initiatives that build community and create opportunities for Jeffco students and families.
It's a great way to start a meeting. And that concludes our meeting. Okay, we will now turn to our board proclamations. The board publicly recognizes special events and significant issues by issuing proclamations. In the month of September, we are commemorating Alopecia Awareness Month, which is September. And I would like to point out that this proclamation was brought to my attention by a parent who wrote me an email asking if we could recognize it this month because she has a child with alopecia. If you're not familiar with that term, it is a hair loss condition, and it does happen early on in children's lives, and it can be very traumatic. And I think it's really important that we lift up lesser known situations and conditions because some of the proclamations we have been around a long time and people have become just aware of them. So another proclamation we have is that September 8th was International Literacy Day, certainly very important in Jeffco School District. It's also National Attendance Awareness Month. That's September. And some of you may have been reading in articles in the newspapers recently that attendance is way down all over the country. Certainly trying to come back from the pandemic was difficult. And I think for me, I would say that attendance is the number one predictor of success in school. So it's nice that we can highlight that awareness. September 8th through 14th is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Week, which is certainly a very big concern in our country. And anything we can do to prevent suicide, especially for young kids, is very important. And finally, September 9th through 15th is National Arts in Education Week. So I encourage you to read the Jeffco School Board's proclamations. They're items 5.01 through 5.05, and they're presented in board docs. And they are the proposed proclamations for the month of September. Do I have a motion regarding the approval of the proclamations?
I move to approve items 5.01 through 5.05 on the Action Proclamations section as published in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the September proclamations as presented in board docs. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Ms. Applegate?
Yes.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
Okay. So those pass, and we will now turn to public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for the community to share their thoughts with the board. During public comment, the board does not engage in discussion with or respond to individuals. The board will listen to public comment on any topic for up to 1 hour. If more time is required, we have a second public comment period at the end of the meeting. There's a 3-minute time limit per individual speaker. If there are 4 or more people who sign up to address the board, they can come up as a group and have 10 minutes for their comments. And each speaker has been given a number. And the board invites you to come up in order. And then when the person before you completes their comments, you can step up to the podium. We listen with respect and ask those who address the board to do the same. Do we have a number 1 for public comment? Welcome. And if you would tell us your name, and then you have 3 minutes.
I brought a handout as my notes went a little long. Hi, I'm Teresa Beezer. I'm from Lakewood, and I'm here to talk to you about Vivian. Today, a newsletter came out at 10 o'clock this morning, which takes out a few of my points. So let me give you the abbreviated version. I know a lot of people in my neighborhood have lived there for 60 years. There's no signs on the school that say it's being sold. So they're completely unaware of what's going on in our community. There's little kids in my community. They just wanted me to tell you they just want playgrounds, and they want a place to ride their bike, and they want to be safe. One kid drew a picture. He said, could we just have maybe a bike park, a dog park, playgrounds, grass? And my own 15-year-old said that they would like someplace to swing. There's nowhere within a couple of miles where they can have a swing. So I just wanted to give you their point of view, but then also my tech-savvy neighbors who can read and have been in your documents found that Jeffco spent $1.7 million on my school in 2020. So that seems really sustainable that you want to get rid of it as fast as you can and maybe build 30 houses. While the kids go further away to other schools, sending them to charter schools or home schools and diverting funds away from Jeffco schools. So the other piece I'd like to ask you is what I've been asked. Would you be happy with a 3-acre park? The property is about 10 acres. And I think that I've already said that would be about 30 homes. We would lose our open space and everywhere that our community has shared things for the last 60 years. So I think I would rather turn that around. Would you be happy with 3 acres? The school really just sits on 3 acres. So if we just sell that, maybe that would be fair. I would like to get creative. I would like to help. I've been in this community for 20 years. I've never heard of that community that he is putting together that you just gave an award for. But maybe because I'm not a disadvantaged family. I know you don't know who I am, but I am a cybersecurity professional. I work for a government agency, and I would like to get creative. I don't think you have red team, blue team, cybersecurity exercises, or anything that our students can do on a regular basis. There might be some weekend activities, but I would like to see that we're actually sustaining this center. We're using this center for something related to a highly technical environment where they can grow in the future. Or I have a lot of other neighbors that said, wait, let's think sustainability and grow things there. And I think it would be great if it was just a sustainability center, something where you could teach all the things that your students are coming up with and that we could be a model. I don't think that with the growth of our student population that we can plan on growth. I think we need to look for other ways to make money, and I think we need to realize that there will be no growth in the future and that the growth in Jeffco schools will be through partnerships and looking for those partnerships. I would like to find grants, but I need more time, and I need to know how much it costs to keep these schools running and the parks maintained so I have financial goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2. Please tell us your name and proceed.
Hello. My name is Chandra Shah. I'm at 2245 Nelson Place, about a block away from Vivian School, which I'm also here to talk about. So we do appreciate the efforts that you've taken to work with the City of Lakewood to set aside the 3 acres, and we do have some questions about the 3-acre proposal. One question is which section will be saved. The preferred location is the southern half. It already has like a baseball diamond and the goalposts. It's used all the time by the community, by people bringing their dogs. I mean, it's great to watch the dogs play there. They just have such a great time. And there's also a playground, so we're wondering what's going to happen to the playground, where the community kids use that playground, as well as the Colorado Kids Academy, which is located right nearby. And we know that the RFP went out earlier this week, and we're wondering if we can get a copy of the RFP. One question is there any limitation on the price that the developer can charge the City of Lakewood for that piece of property? And that brings up a question of why not sell it directly to the City of Lakewood rather than have the developer sell it to the City of Lakewood. And does the fact that the developer rather than Jeffco School is selling it, does that impact the ability to raise funds through organizations such as Jeffco Open Space or Great Outdoor Colorado? I understand that they can provide some funds, but I don't know if that changes because the developer will be selling the property. But kind of tying in on what Teresa was saying, we understand that might have budget concerns, but selling the school, it's a one-time infusion of cash for Jeffco schools, but the negative impacts to our neighborhood are permanent. And so there's a lot of people that are really concerned. We're concerned about new roads. There's the park or the Jeffco Vivian School is surrounded by homes. So there are hundreds of people that would be impacted. If there's new roads, there'll be a lot more traffic. The roads are not currently used for walking. There aren't sidewalks in a lot of areas, so the walkability could be reduced. So there's a lot of people that are concerned. You may probably have heard there's a petition. There's almost 1,000 people that have signed that petition. So there's a lot of people that are concerned. You may have heard about the letter from Steve Larson. I think he's the grandson of the people that donated the property, and he also has expressed that he's interested in seeing it preserved. Stormwater is another issue that one of my neighbors has brought up, or maybe a couple neighbors. Whenever there's a big rainstorm, there sometimes is flooding. If you develop that land, what happens to the stormwater issue? It seems like it's going to get worse. So really, we had hoped to see a delay in the RFP and just take more time to find a win-win solution. I think if there was more time, maybe we could come up with creative solutions that provide funds to Jeffco schools, but also helps the neighborhood. One idea, which I'm sure has been brought up, is could you do a lease? So in closing, I think that the community is going to continue to look for solutions. Maybe there's something that will arise that can take care of the budget issue as well as preserving the community. Thank you. And I brought copies of the letter from Steve Larson.
Thank you. Number 3. Welcome. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Figliolino, and I reside at 7635 Barbara Ann Drive here in Arvada. I am here today as a representative of the Regional Transportation District, known more commonly as RTD, and I am here to share exciting news with you. Last month, the RTD Board of Directors voted to make our Zero Fare for Youth program permanent. That means that any individual ages 19 or younger can ride RTD buses and trains for no cost, including your students. They just need to show their student ID or a government-issued ID when they board the bus or train. Creating an opportunity to ride transit at no cost eliminates barriers to education and employment while also providing families with the opportunities to save money on gas and vehicle expenses. And so as students return to school this fall, RTD is excited to partner with Jeffco to share information about this program with students and parents. You can learn more about the program and download our informational toolkit by visiting our website at rtd-denver.com. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have number 4? Is there anybody else that signed up for comment? Nope, that's it. All right, thank you so much, appreciate that. So that means we are ready to go into our study session. Tonight marks the board's first regular board meeting of the 2024-25 school year. We previously held 2 study sessions on August 22nd and September 4th. On August 22nd, Superintendent Dorland shared with us the district's priorities under Jeffco Thrives 2025 for the year ahead. The primary focus of the work ahead is to deepen the district's efforts related to our learners, our future. More specifically, goals are centered on student outcomes with 2 major objectives: creating a culture of instructional excellence and providing extraordinary student experiences. The main message Superintendent Dorland conveyed is that 2 things can be true at the same time. There are many bright spots in Jeffco, and the district has more work to do to get better. On September 4th, 2024, the board held a study session that included the following topics: fiscal year 2024-25 amended budget, Jefferson County's November ballot measure, monitoring reports 1.1 and 2.3, Jeffco's magic of middle school work and efforts to accelerate student progress and achievement in middle school, minor boundary study adjustments, which were first recommended to us by Flow Analytics as part of the boundary study that concluded last spring. And finally, we received a preview of the consent agenda items we will be voting on tonight, which is a regular standing agenda item during our study sessions. I encourage you to watch the recording of the study session to learn more about these topics. And we have been recording them on YouTube starting this year, and you can also get the links to it from the Jeffco Public Schools page. You can also visit our board page at the Jeffco Public Schools website, and there you'll find a host of information and links to both the board docs and the live stream platforms. So we are now moving into our first agenda item of the evening, which is the Board of Education receiving an update on the work of the Technology and Data Privacy Advisory Committee, or TDPAC. Sure.
And so what time are we expecting Mr. Wright to be here? Okay.
Okay. All right.
I guess the other option would be for the board to flip-flop the 2 agenda items and move forward with the transportation presentation prior to the consent agenda, and then that'll be up to the board. And Mary, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, if Mr. Gatlin's ready, let's do that. We'll switch the 2 agenda items. So we will go on to the 8.01 and get the presentation on supplemental transportation services. And we'll have the opportunity to talk with district staff before voting on contracts with Everitt ALC schools, Noah Care, and Hopskip Drive Incorporated. Our transportation department continues to see an increase in requests to transport students who need individual or specialized transportation and cannot be served by our traditional yellow bus service. It's important to know that transportation is often required by federal and state law to support special education, homeless, and foster care students. Currently, the district contracts with 3 transportation service companies, Hopskip Drive, Everdriven, and Noah Care, for specialized student transport. The Transportation Department is planning to collect data this school year to establish a new baseline for these service costs. Data collection will also help staff evaluate whether Jeffco can successfully provide some of these services internally by diversifying its vehicle fleet. Where previously the board has been asked to approve multiple contracts for supplemental transportation services throughout the year, this year the district is requesting the ability to contract up to $5.5 million for the entirety of the school year. Before I turn this over to Mr. Gatlin, Superintendent Dorland, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, President Parker. Ms. Tolleson, does the board need to do anything to amend the agenda if we're switching order? Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure you guys were following the rules. I'm looking forward to the board receiving an update about transportation. Several of you have asked questions about our transportation services, especially given some of the challenges we've had with cancellation of routes, which we're trying diligently to get back online as soon as our folks are trained. And we have some data for you that's been requested as well, and information about our efforts to try to minimize some of these contracted services. So with that, Mr. Gatlin, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Dorland, President Parker, board members. Each year we do come to the board and ask for approval of a contract for transportation contracted services. Last year was a little bit of a unique year that there was an initial contract that was approved by the board that wasn't adequate. The amount wasn't adequate to cover the services that were required for the entire year. So we were in front of the board in February of this year to provide an update on contracted services, but a strategy that we're excited to implement, that we're hopeful can have an impact as far as our small vehicle fleet diversification. And so some of the materials and the information is a little bit of a repeat, but I think it's important for context around this conversation. There are some new data that will be introduced, and I want to make sure you have an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have as well. So really, we'll go through just information on transporting students, what's required, who do we provide contracted services to, a little bit about the fleet and department information, and then historical and projected costs for these contracted services. And as you may remember, we are required by state statute to provide transportation services to some student populations. Our special education students, our McKinney-Vento students, who are students experiencing homelessness, are placed out of district students or students that require special services that Jeffco may not be able to provide, and that also maybe keeps them closer to home, and students in foster care. So we are required to provide transportation for those students. And under Colorado law, we're not required to transport other students, but most school districts like us do that, but it's not a requirement. So a little bit of information on transporting students, and really this is focused on those student populations that we're required to provide transportation to, and a little bit about our process. Really, when a student is identified or an eligible student is identified, it's referred to the transportation department team, and the transportation department really works on prioritization of how can we provide the service to the student, first by looking at, can we serve the student on one of our regular full-size buses? That's always the first priority as far as efficiencies and support for the student. Really, what we're excited to really implement this year, I think, with more fidelity and even a more diversified approach, is a small vehicle fleet that is diversified now. We have 14 passenger Type A buses. We actually have Ford Expeditions in our fleet previously to this recent round of purchases, and we purchased plug-in hybrid RAV4s as well. So we really are trying to align those vehicles to whatever the need is for the students. But that's our second priority that we look to. Third priority is we do have there is an option to reimburse parents for providing service for their students. We actually pay parents. I have some information around how many students and that amount annually that we can get to as far as what our parent reimbursement looks like typically. And then we move to contracted services. So you do see that contracted services is our last priority, but a lot of times we're not able to satisfy it through those other means. And basically that's the fourth point, that unfortunately it's just impossible for us. And when we look at the numbers, when we look at how many trips we're providing, how many trips our contracted services are providing, we just can't fully serve that internal, and we do rely on these services to help with that. Little information around our fleet. We have 320 full-size buses, 185 daily routes. We serve between 13 and 14,000 students daily on average. Our small fleet, we have the 6 Type A passenger buses, 8 of the RAV4s, 18 of the Ford Expeditions, an additional 10 of the Type A 14 passenger buses we're hopeful are coming at the end of this month or next month. And just, relatively speaking, I think it's important to know when we are asking for a contract approval in the amount of $5.5 million, how does it relate to the department's budget? And the overall transportation department's budget is roughly $34 million. And so when we're looking at this particular contract renewal, and we looked at our last 2 years of trend data around costs, we are taking a little bit of the high-end approach for this contract amount, knowing that we've seen 40% or so increase in costs from previous year to last year, and anticipating or at least planning for a similar increase, although we're optimistic that some of these efforts that we're making are going to actually result in services that come in under that amount, but it's a little bit to be determined. And so part of what we're doing this year is really taking a look at better data around our small fleet, around how many students that we're transporting per day. Actually, I got a little tidbit meeting with one of our terminal directors today around how are they using them already. And as you know, unfortunately, I think many of you have heard, sometimes the beginning of the year can be a little crazy, and it's a very fluid and dynamic time in the transportation department. But I did find out that we have students being transported in all of these types of vehicles already, which is nice. And there isn't a single instance of a single student being transported at one time. So it was a minimum of 2 students at one time, which is important because when we talked about a cost model in February, this started to really pencil out if we were able to implement this with efficiencies around number of kids being transported. And now that was a conversation with one director today, but that was nice to hear, and I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that we'll continue to hear that. But that's the type of data and the type of information that we're going to be collecting and that we'll be able to provide the board regularly throughout this year, as I know we'll be interested in it, and I know you will be as well. And one other thing that's important to remember is, the contract amount that we're requesting is the $5.5 million, we do get billed on a per trip basis. So, it's not just authorizing, we're going to end up paying $5.5 million in transport services for this year and contracted services for the year. Again, hopeful, optimistic it comes in under, but a little bit to be determined since we are implementing a new structure this year. So that's my quick rundown of the contracted services. I do want to make sure you have an opportunity to ask any questions or provide any other information that you think would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Gatlin. Board members, any questions?
Yeah.
Could you talk about when you said it's impossible for us to meet all of our needs? Is that because we lack personnel or vehicles or both?
It's both. It's both right now. And when we look at the number of students, we're seeing around 200 to 300 students a year that end up riding on contracted service. It's not necessarily that amount every single day. the actual number of daily trips are a little bit less just based on the dynamics of how often a student might actually do the service, and a few other variables. Part of it is you see our fleet. We have a lot of extra full-size buses, but we can't get full-size CDL licensed drivers. So that's a big issue. So that was really one of the main reasons why we wanted to focus on smaller fleet, was we were reducing the barrier to obtain and to attract drivers. So it's a little bit of both right now, and we'll see if we can paint a compelling data picture, cost picture, to say, yeah, this actually we are creating a bit of a sustainable model as it relates to the right size fleet, knowing that we're reducing that barrier to get drivers into the door and to keep drivers.
And one other question I had was, we get a lot of emails about canceled routes, and sometimes it's that they didn't get enough notice, or so I'm just wondering, how do we communicate with families about canceled routes, and are there any ways to improve that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do our best to communicate with as much notice as we can, and sometimes there's unexpected things happen, and unfortunately we've been operating with a pretty thin margin of error. If 2 or 3 drivers, 4 drivers are unable to work in a day, that can have impact and implication. And so part of what we're trying to do, as Superintendent Dorland mentioned, when we are adding drivers back into our driver pool, we'll be really thoughtful about how we add service back, because we don't want to add so much service back that we're living right on that edge again. There's a bit of a delicate balance to that, and so we'll work on that. And I know that the answer of notifying families as quick as we can doesn't always feel good, and that doesn't and it is a major inconvenience and a major disruption, and it's something that we're going to continue to work on to try to minimize and avoid if we can. But we'll continue to do our best, but sometimes some things just come up and we can't cover it. Yep.
I was wondering, for these businesses that we contract with, I get it for the special needs kids in the foster care and so forth, but do we use them in general if we just have bus drivers that are out sick? So we would never use them just
we don't. We don't typically, no.
Okay, so when we do use their services, they bring their own vehicle. It's not that they're supplying a driver, they're supplying the car.
Correct.
As well.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for this. And as we all know, this comes up and it can raise a lot of questions. So I appreciate you giving us all the data. When we think about the 4 options that you presented on slide 4, what percentage, kind of how did the percentages fall out, right? I know our option 2 is really new this year, and I don't need necessarily numbers, but what percentage are we serving in options 1 and 2?
Yep. So percentages, if we look at students, an average of students transported per day, we're using roughly 13,000. I think when we did this analysis, it might have been a little bit higher, 13,600. It's about 1.6% of our riders are on contracted services.
Okay.
And about we're able to accommodate about 5.4% of our riders through our own large fleet. And so when you break down percentages, it's not a giant number. It's costly, unfortunately, but it is a small percentage. And we are able to accommodate a lot of the requests on our regular size buses, but it's a bit of a compounding problem that when you continue to reduce service, then you continue to reduce the opportunity to provide these services on a full-size bus. So that complicates it as well. So that's part of the issue too.
But these 10 additional kind of smaller buses should help with that.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
What's the total transportation budget, and what percent is this 5.5 of our total budget?
The total budget's about 34 million. So, I'm not sure that So at the top, I'm sure Dr. Kim could probably. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Mr.
14-ish.
Gatlin.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have our TDPAC team now? All right. We will now go back to item 7.01, the Technology and Data Privacy Act Committee. And before we turn this over to Ms. Ibeck and her team, Superintendent Dorland, is there anything you'd like to add? And actually, you know what? Let me read a little bit more of the introduction as Ms. Ibeck is coming up here. Just as a reminder to the listening public, TDPAC members act in an advisory capacity on such topics as the district's technology strategies, systems, and overall data governance. And as someone who's had the pleasure of attending TDPAC meetings, as a board liaison, I really appreciate the work that your team does. And I think in this day and age with technology changing with the blink of an eye, it's really important we stay up to date on it. So now, Ms. Dorland, do you have anything?
Thank you, President Parker. Thank you for being the board liaison to this important committee. Thank you, Mr. Wright, for being here as our TDPAC member. And I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Ibeck and soon. But I just want to say that we're doing some work this year to, I think, really give some positive direction to the board committees that report to you. And so I'm looking forward to you hearing directly from staff that supports this committee and Mr. Wright himself this evening about the work that's ahead this year. I know just yesterday, I think you all had a meeting. Is that correct?
Our first meeting is next Wednesday.
Oh, next Wednesday. I'm getting my Wednesdays confused. Sorry. There's a lot going on. But we're looking forward to really getting some input from this group on some very important issues this year. So, Ms. Ibeck, I will hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Dorland, and good evening, members of the board. Thank you for your flexibility tonight. Mr. Wright is joining us remotely, and so we can see him here to our left. And just checking with Mr. Wright, are you able to see and hear us okay?
I sure can. Apologies for not being able to be there in person. I got my Thursdays mixed up.
We certainly appreciate it. So we will go ahead and get started. And so just some introductions. I am Jill Ibeck, the Chief Information Officer, and to my left, we have Patrick Dean, and he is our Interim Director of Information Security and Identity. And so a little bit about TDPAC before I turn it over to Mr. Wright to introduce himself. We're 15 committee members external to Jeffco staff. These committee members are made up of community experts. We do have some school staff that makes up this committee. We have one digital teacher librarian. We have one high school tech coordinator from Arvada West. And we have many external parents and experts and IT experts that help us out on this committee and are very generous with their time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mike Wright to introduce himself and the work that he has helped us do over the past school year on TDPAC.
Sure, thanks for that. So my name's Mike Wright. I've been on TD. Last year was my first year on TDPAC. I have two kids in the district, a fifth grader and a kindergartner. And I've been working in the cybersecurity field for about 20 years now. It's not just my job, but it's my passion too. One of the reasons I like going to work is knowing that the work that I do day in, day out is helping to protect people from things like identity theft, hackers, that sort of thing. Specifically within cybersecurity, my career is focused in two general areas. The first is the more technical side of cybersecurity, things like vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, ethical hacking, that sort of thing. And the other area has been more in the area of the governance, risk, and compliance side of cybersecurity. So I work with various organizations on compliance with state and federal laws, regulations, and standards, as well as applying cybersecurity risks to business decisions. Over the past year, I've had the pleasure of working with the other members of TDPAC on a couple of different topics. Most interesting, I think the one that we ended the year on in our last meeting of the school year, which I think we're going to be spending a little bit more time on this year, has been a little bit of the discussion on the impact of AI on education, on the school district, and on cybersecurity. So I really look forward to having some more of those discussions and others to see how we can help the district on the cybersecurity governance side.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Wright. And that's a perfect segue for what we're going to talk about tonight with the board. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the evolution of TDPAC, where it started and where we are now. And we are going to discuss and look forward to our 24-25 TDPAC meeting preview, including AI, as Mr. Wright mentioned, and many other topics. So as we think about the evolution of TDPAC, the history of how TDPAC came to form is extremely important. This committee was formulated many years ago in response to a district effort surrounding a student data project with an external entity called InBloom, and you may have heard about that prior. At the time, district governance processes were not mature enough to properly support this effort, and therefore TDPAC was born. This committee has largely spent time consuming strategic initiatives surrounding data privacy, especially student and employee data privacy, I should say, and acting largely as a governance mechanism for Jeffco. Our work together last school year yielded a conversation in May, which acknowledged the district's investments in cybersecurity and governance mechanisms, such as data governance, software intake and vetting processes, and enhanced purchasing processes. The conversation culminated in the desire for both parties to shift the focus of TDPAC to a true advisory committee while in session and consuming the output of the more mature governance processes in an asynchronous fashion. So what that means is that we are looking forward to improving overall engagement with the school board. We are looking forward next week to our first meeting, as you heard, to electing a committee chair. And once again, using technology to improve communications when we're not in session and not meeting. You heard a little bit about the evolution of the committee's work and logistics, and with that change, we would look forward to an updated committee charter and providing that to the Board of Education. And we are extremely thankful to the Board of Education for helping us onboard an outside facilitator through the Keystone Group. And it is certainly difficult to facilitate, participate, and communicate in the meeting. And so we very, very much look forward to the facilitator coming on board, helping us stay on track, stay on time, and stay on topic.
Ms. Sybeck, speaking of new people, can we have Mr. Dean introduce himself?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you all. My name is Patrick Dean. As Jill said, I'm the interim for information security and identity, and I've been in the IT sector for 30 years plus now. And I have done infrastructure, I've done security, and I've been a contractor and a consultant over those years. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity to help Jeffco put their cyber security program forward and to help with identity.
Okay, moving on. One of the first things that we're looking forward to tackling with our TDPAC committee next Wednesday is all about our strategy in IT. And so the cabinet team alongside Superintendent Dorland has been working extremely hard to set strategic initiatives, especially ones that involve technology. And so as we think about those new strategic initiatives, we actually used AI to create this picture here, this picture of sunglasses. And what we like to say is we're always wearing our sunglasses, both in IT here at Jeffco and in our TDPAC meetings. We're always thinking about modernization of applications and storage, and we're always, of course, thinking about information security and compliance. And so our vision is here. We will empower Team Jeffco by modernizing our systems and processes. We aim to democratize technology and data to enable all students, families, and staff to self-serve. To do so, we will focus through these two lenses that highlight the use of cloud-based technologies and, once again, information security best practice. Okay, so as we look forward to our 24-25 TDPAC meeting preview, once again, it's wrapped around a lot of the work that we've done on strategic technology initiatives. And so we're going to ask TDPAC to lean into the following strategic initiatives, and we'll spend our first meeting or so focusing on some of the following initiatives, and you'll hear about AI as well soon. So how will TDPAC help us with our strategic initiatives this year? From a data governance lens, TDPAC will play a key role guiding our program as it matures across the organization and providing key strategies on installation of this program. From an ERP modernization perspective, TDPAC will get a review of all processes in place for this extremely large multi-year project. We will dive into software vetting, requirements gathering, data privacy requirements, and technology requirements already provided as part of this very large RFP. We will also work with TDPAC on architecture review of a new system. With regard to operations in support of student outcomes, TDPAC will play a key role for Jeffco on this topic. We have initiated an assessment of our access management processes and procedures, which are not fully automated yet and require too many manual workarounds and is very exception-based from a processing perspective for our employees to get access to systems. One of the things that we heard from our school leaders on a survey was that we are extremely responsive from an IT perspective to tickets opened up in a technology sense. However, the manual processes to be able to grant teachers, school leaders access to systems is a little bit too slow. And so we will be focusing on that with regard to operations and support of student outcomes. And at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Wright to also lean in and give his input on how he thinks TDPAC can wrap around these initiatives as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ms. Ibeck. The first thing I like to say is I really appreciate some of the improvements at communication that the team has put into place over the past several months, like the asynchronous communication that was mentioned. Having sat on both sides of the table, I serve on some boards as well as have had to report to boards over many years. Sometimes it's difficult for those of us who are reporting to the board to understand what's important to you, and vice versa, right? Having sat on several boards, sometimes it's difficult to communicate the things that you don't know, right? Especially about a complex topic like cybersecurity and privacy, which spans so many different ideas and areas of expertise. So, with regard to some of the initiatives that Ms. Ibeck mentions, one thing that I've seen based on the last year's worth of TDPAC meetings is that the community members in the members of the TDPAC committee, we all have various expertise, various skills, various experience in different areas. And one of the things that I think is really great about this committee, especially for some of the strategic technology initiatives that are coming up that were just mentioned, is that we have members on TDPAC who have business and practical experience with some of those, like the ERP modernization, for example, the data governance that was mentioned, those sorts of things. So I really think that we're going to be able to provide some useful and helpful advice, both to the school district, but also to you as a board, helping you understand some of these and navigate some of these complex topics.
All right, moving on as we look forward to more exciting topics that TDPAC will tackle over the next school year. As already mentioned, there's a lot of buzz and talk around AI in education. And we have AI as a topic queued up for our very first meeting. We are prioritizing that conversation with our TDPAC committee. So in partnership with our school leadership teams here at Jeffco, the Information Technology Division is ready to deliver a pathway to create a governing and information framework around AI usage in our schools. This includes alignment with existing policy, creating standards, principles, and ethical use guidelines. This framework looks to create a pathway between existing experimentation going on at our schools and to help our schools understand what is working well and how to take advantage of a tool like AI, as well as providing guidance and training on safe and secure use of these tools as well. The framework will enhance the existing software vetting process discussed tonight to include use cases surrounding AI, and we will look to TDPAC to help us mature this framework by including this group, TDPAC group that is, in discussions around lessons learned and the feedback gathered from this framework being instantiated. And once again, we'll pause and ask Mr. Wright if he'd like to chime in here.
Sure, thanks. Just really quick, this is another area where I think TDPAC's going to be able to shine this upcoming school year. Many of us on TDPAC have had to work with various international as well as state regulations on AI. Colorado, I'm sure as some of you know, just passed some AI legislation earlier this year. So this is an area where I think we'll be able to help provide some, I guess, for lack of a better word, speedy assistance to the school district, because we've already had to build things like usage policies and frameworks and guidelines around specific use cases in our professional lives. I think we can pretty quickly and effectively bring that to TDPAC to help the district get up to speed on AI.
Thank you again, Mr. Wright. And moving on, some non-strategic initiatives that are always in the interest of TDPAC that will make it onto an agenda this coming year are social media and personal device policies in schools. There are pilots going on right now. And once again, mentioning that asynchronous channel that we look forward to setting up between us and our TDPAC committee members and sharing output of those pilots happening at the schools. And security and privacy framework assessments as well. Mr. Wright mentioned a little bit about this. There's a lot of expertise from this group, this TDPAC group, on the appropriate security and privacy framework assessments needed for a school district and a technology footprint such as Jeffco has. And so we'll be sharing the output of those assessments and asking TDPAC for input. And once again, Mr. Wright, pausing for comment.
Sure, thanks. Just one quick comment on this. When talking about security and privacy frameworks, it's important to realize that two things. One, there's no such thing as 100% secure. You can just look at organizations like the National Security Agency, right, who have much larger budget than Jefferson County, and they've been hacked, right? That being said, the second thing I just want to point out is there are cost-effective ways that we can look at various security and privacy controls to help protect students and employee information using the limited resources that we have. So it's not even though you see in the news every day there's a new breach, a new hack, that sort of thing. It's all is not lost, right? There's work that we can do as a district to make ourselves not, I guess, what I would call a low-hanging fruit. So the bad guys are going to look somewhere else for to fund their cybercrime.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Wright, for your input. We appreciate it very much. And that brings us to the end of our presentation, and we'll open the floor for questions and dialogue from the board.
Thank you so much. Directors, questions, comments?
Thank you. I have two questions. I haven't heard you talk about this, and so maybe it's for a different setting, but in 23, the legislature passed the law about accessibility on public-facing platforms. As a technology company that I own, we are working really hard to meet all those standards, and it's a huge lift. And our team is really small. I've heard some teams having 40 people, working on that. Luckily, they gave an extension because it was like July deadline of 2024. I think they gave us a year extension, but I'm wondering how are we dealing with that as the district? And again, if that's not for this conversation, it's just a compliance question.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I'll give a high-level answer. I would like to take that question offline and focus this more on technology, data privacy. To your very good point, WCAG guidelines and ADA and accessibility and House Bill 110 effectively granted many state entities what's called an extension period for us to be able to file our stance around accommodations of our technical equipment. And so we are working on that. as an entity. It is complex. It involves IT. It involves our communication teams. It involves our legal team. And so we are in progress of working very hard on that. I heard you mention something about 40 staff. I don't think we're quite that high, but it is quite an effort for Jeffco and many other state institutions as well. And so from there, I'd like to be able to take this question offline and provide you more detailed information offline.
Yeah, no problem. It's like crushing us. So with a 10-person tech team. So it's just a lot of work. How are, for example, our teachers already using AI in the classroom?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And one of the things that we're thinking about as we think about this framework being set up is really opening a communication channel to understand what experimentation is happening out there in the classroom. And so we are pushing some AI pilots through that pipeline and that framework. One example of a pilot that we're pushing through is a technology called Conmigo. And we're also learning about some of the usage that's happening out in our schools as well. And we want to be able to be open-minded, and we want to be able to understand what's happening out in our schools. So those are two examples. And then what we hope to do with the framework is to categorize those types of usage. And if it's acceptable usage and it's helping our teachers, we want to be able to publish that information so all teachers understand it. And if it's not acceptable usage, we want to be able to teach and train as well.
Thanks. And I just noticed in the back of the room we have a teacher, well, no, I think not doing this right now, but who I've seen advertising, or not advertising, but I've seen promotions for work he's been doing to advance that. I just wanted to say thank you. And
Andrew is now on our technology team, ed tech team. So we're grateful for his expertise and practical experiences that he's bringing to our team.
Yeah, I noticed early, like an early adopter in the back of the room was doing good work in our district. And I just wanted to say I'm really excited about that part of it. I think that the resume of our students for the future has to include skills around AI. I know we have a member on my team who has trained us all on prompt engineering, which is, generating the correct prompts to get your sunglasses or whatever it is you want. And it's a skill that really, I think any part of an organization, whether you're in marketing, development, data science, you have to have. And so I think it's really important for our kids to be able to create resumes and skills when they go out into the market, because it's not going to matter what the job is necessarily. There's going to need to be skills that we demonstrate for that kind of work. And so I think it's essential that we're providing that to our students, and the governance framework around it is absolutely the boundaries that we need. So I just appreciate the work and attention that you're paying to that, and I want to stay ahead of it as a district. So thank you.
I just quickly want to express my gratitude for all the folks who are willing to be on TDPAC and have these conversations. It looks like you'll have a lot to discuss this year. So I'm looking forward to the next time we get to meet with you and hear how those conversations have gone, some of them. So thank you so much, both the district staff and community partners who are engaged in the work.
I want to echo Director Kenworthy's sentiments. This is really important stuff. And as we as corporations are grappling with how to adopt it, we are training the next level of workforce in this space. So thank you. One of my just curiosities is, when we're thinking about a governing framework, are we thinking about like a private version of AI where it's controlled for the district, or are we thinking about going to just a preferred platform?
And so that's a fantastic question. There's been some research done by multiple folks in this room and not in this room to see what other K-12 entities are doing out there. For example, LA Unified School District did go the route of creating a private AI engine. We are exploring and watching right now, hence the creation of the framework. We have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn about what's going on at our schools, and we have a lot to learn from our vendors as well. Our vendors continue to work with us and work with K-12 to make sure that their tools are increasingly safe and secure. So hold that thought, and we'll get back back to you. It's a wonderful question, and we are sitting back and watching the framework right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
First of all, I have a question for Mr. Wright. Did I hear you correctly when you were telling us your background and experience? Did I hear the term ethical hacking?
Yes, that's right.
Can you explain that one to me?
Sure. So ethical hacking is where an organization hires somebody to try to break into their computer networks with permission. So fully above board, right? No breaking of laws or that sort of thing. It's especially common in areas like retail and financial services industries.
Thank you. And then I have a question. When you just talked about the pilots that are going on, and especially I'm very interested in anything around the social media and personal devices. What constitutes a pilot in your mind? Is it more than one school, more than one teacher? How do you determine it?
Yeah, so in my personal opinion and in my personal mind, anything that's happening out there is really a pilot. When it comes to the official pilot that we're working on for social media in schools, we're working with our academic leadership team, community superintendents, our school leaders to be able to identify certain eligible schools that fit the criteria of what we're trying to accomplish within the pilot. And so I don't have the information in front of me as far as what schools have opted into those types of programs, but can certainly provide that to you if wanted.
Yeah, I think it'd be fascinating, at least for me. I'd love to know what kind of pilots are out there because the cell phone use is something that I'm always asking all my schools. What is your policy here and how successful are you? And in fact, I have one daughter who's a teacher in high school. And even though they have a school-wide policy, she said the kids just in your face. You know, you want me to put my cell phone here? I'll put it there and I'll take it right back in your face. So anyway, I'm imagining some of the feedback we'll get from the pilots is, okay, that didn't work. Let's see what might work. So. Fascinating. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Look forward to the next TDPAC meeting. Okay, we do have an action item that was associated with the supplemental student transportation contract renewal. So it's based on the presentation we had from Mr. Gatlin. And I am asking now, do I have a motion to approve the renewal of the agreements with Everdriven, ALC Schools, Noah Care, and Hop Skip Drive Incorporated for supplementary student transportation at a maximum annual amount of $5,500,000?
I move to approve the contract renewal to the agreements with Everdriven, ALC Schools, Noah Care, and Hop Skip Drive, Inc. for supplementary student transportation for up to $5.5 million as presented in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Yes, Director Kenworthy.
I want to thank Jeff Gatman and his team for having ongoing conversation with us about this from last year's additional money that we allocated and into this year and the strategy that we're using. And I also just want to lift up that I am also looking forward to conversations about, how we will continue to think creatively and move towards reducing our reliance on external contractors. But I know that's a long-term process. It's not going to be something that can happen in 1 year or maybe even in 3 years. It's going to be a long process. But I'm looking forward to the continuation of the work that I think it was Terry Slemons did while he was with us. I think he started some really good initiatives and thinking, and I'm just excited to see how we're going to turn this around and start to move away from using contractors. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that the board approve the contract renewals for supplementary transportation services as presented in board docs. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Ms. Applegate?
Yes.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. And that brings us to item 9.0, the consent agenda. Items 9.01 through 9.25 are presented in board docs as a proposed consent agenda. And as mentioned earlier, we did get a preview of them at our last study session, so we did have the opportunity to ask questions and give input into them. So do I have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
I move to approve items 9.01 through 9.25 on the consent agenda as published in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please, Ms. Zapata.
Ms. Applegate?
Yes.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
Okay, and that passes. So we are coming down to item 10.0, the leadership reports, and we will start out with the superintendent.
Thank you, President Parker. This is our first opportunity to share updates for the school year, which is exciting. I would like to take a moment and just thank everyone who helped get the year off to a great start, including our elected officials across the county who visited our schools on the first day to welcome staff and students. It was really nice to see them around and about and saying hello to some of our families and students. While this is our first regular meeting of the 24-25 school year, this is the fourth meeting of the board since August. You've already been very busy, and it's been great to get back to work with you all. The work we do together in service of our students, schools, and families is particularly rewarding for me. Last week, we had the opportunity to review student achievement data together through the presentation of Monitoring Report 1.1. Thank you, Dr. Kim. I want to take this opportunity to say again just how proud I am of Jeffco's academic progress. The growth we see in these results that we reviewed last week indicates that our strategic plan, Jeffco Thrives 2025, is the right work. More than that, it represents the efforts of our school leaders, our classroom teachers, and many educators and staff and their dedication to preparing every Jeffco student for bright and successful futures where they achieve their biggest dreams. I want to publicly thank our staff. They have put in the time, effort, and commitment, and they're doing the work that we have set in motion, and I'm grateful for that. While test scores are only one measure of student performance at a single point in time, it is encouraging to see evidence that we are on the right track. Alongside Monitoring Report 1.1, you also received a presentation on 2.3, which is all about how we use the data we collect in Jeffco to support our students. This week, 50 staff, including assistant principals and instructional coaches, completed our data camp program. As you know, we trained all principals last summer. And another 62 leaders will be participating in data camp next week. Thank you to everyone who supported data camp, and thank you to those who are interested and attended this week. And I'm excited for those of you who are coming next week. We certainly have had a lot to celebrate with the start of the school year, but we have also had our share of challenges. We've had to cancel some bus routes, as we discussed earlier, due to staffing issues. But the routes that have been canceled will be first in line to be resumed as newly hired drivers complete their training, and we have quite a few trainers and quite a few drivers in training right now. But we know that this presents challenges for families and that that's not ideal, especially at the start of the year, but really any time of the year. And I am really sorry for that, for families who are impacted. We hosted a community meeting this week with Arvada High School alumni and former staff to discuss the relocation of artifacts from the school's history to become in compliance with the direction from the Colorado Commission of Indian Affairs. This is a highly emotional process for the community. I appreciate how passionate our stakeholders are about this issue, and I am confident that together, in collaboration, we can find a solution that respects and honors the history of Arvada High School while also respecting and honoring Native American and Indigenous people. Another challenge, earlier I talked about our progress on student outcomes, which deserve celebration. And I am very proud, and I do believe that our results indicate that we are on the right track and doing much of the right work. That said, going into this school year, I am particularly concerned and focused on our performance gaps, which highlight the need to better support our students experiencing poverty and assisting students transitioning from 5th to 6th grade in particular. We also are working diligently to encourage student ownership of their learning, having the students do the cognitive sweat in the classroom, and is going to lead to much more learning, and we are excited about our schools putting effort into that. And we are looking to engage students through really relevant learning experiences. So I'm excited about those things, but they are areas where we need to improve. And, my team and I are looking for these things that I just mentioned as we conduct leadership learning walks and as I go into schools and conduct superintendent visits with our principals this year. And I have already been in 8 schools. Not all of them have been formal visits, looking at instruction, because obviously at the beginning of the year, we're just there to celebrate welcoming folks back. But I have had an instructional visit this week, which was wonderful. Just as an aside, I got to speak with middle school students. So student talks are part of my school visits this year. And as I talked to the middle school students, one of the questions is, what would you ask your teachers to do less of? And our middle school students said, talk, which is just a perfect answer from our young, middle school kiddos who are wanting really to, I think, engage with each other more in their classrooms. When I asked, what would you have your teachers do more of? They said, give us work time and opportunity to work together, which was interesting. Yep. And then finally at this particular school, which I will not mention, but it was an amazing school visit that I had. I asked them, what's one thing your teachers do that you would consistently across all classrooms that you appreciate? And they said, every single one of our teachers smiles at us when we walk into the classroom and says, welcome. So kudos to, I will tell you, it's Oberon Middle School for having teachers that are welcoming to every student when they come into their classrooms. It was really an awesome place to be and a wonderful visit. And I truly am inspired by the work that's going on in our schools this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, anyone like to go first? Director Reed?
Well, I want to start off by saying what a wonderful time I had at the inaugural Back to School Bash in August. That was a phenomenal event. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great way for the community to see all the ways that we support kids, and I sometimes forget all the ways that we do that. I was really excited to see the new bus that we have for newcomers. And then I was like triply excited because it was at the school across the street from my house and people were using it. So that was super exciting. Let's see, great back to school retreat for the Jeffco Schools Foundation. And if anyone who is listening is not familiar with that organization, it's the fundraising partner of Jeffco Schools. And they cultivate partnerships to ensure Jeffco students thrive through equitable, excellent, and engaging educational experiences. And you can learn more about them at jeffcoschoolsfoundation.org. Had a chance to connect with community leaders at the Jeffco Municipal Breakfast. Really enjoyed that. And then I've had some one-on-one conversations with people who are parts of community organizations and with other elected leaders outside of that group. So I had a chance to hear some of the concerns and some of the things that people are excited about that we're doing. So I think we've got lots of opportunities for great partnerships, and that's always exciting. I have visited Jeffco Open School, Slater Elementary School, Iber Elementary School, South Lakewood Elementary School, and Lakewood High School. And so I'm starting to get to know all of the new schools that I'm representing. And so that has been a lot of fun. Everybody has been just as warm and welcoming as I could ever hope for them to be. And I think the thing I appreciated most was that people were just really honest with me right out of the gate about all the things they felt really great about and the things that they wanted to see us work on and improve. And I just always feel honored when people trust immediately to be that honest and that straightforward. And I've had a chance to share that feedback with district leadership. So that has been a really rewarding thing to do. It's something that I've wanted to do as a board member for sure. Overall, from those visits, what I got was a general sense that everyone I spoke to feels like the district is moving in the right direction. I am hearing from principals that they feel like they have, what I heard more than once is that they feel like they have a more clear sense of the vision of this district than they've had in a very long time, and that they knew exactly what was expected of them to move in the direction of that decision, of that vision. Now, in the meantime, we have teachers who are still adjusting to new curriculum, but there was also a general sense that that was going well and would continue to improve. Everyone is excited to be seeing results. So many of the schools, and one of them it's a title school that had amazing growth. So they were super excited to share that with me, and I was super excited to hear it. Mental health concerns continue to remain an ongoing challenge and at top of mind for people. I attended the Green Mountain Community Connections meeting, and the Green Mountain Network of Schools is really taking this challenge on head on. They're providing suicide prevention resources to students, staff, and community beginning in elementary school. So I was really impressed to hear the work that they are doing on that. So everybody is just hitting the ground running, and it's exciting.
Next, Director Applegate. Sure, we'll switch up the order here. I would share the same sentiment. The Back to School Bash was super fun. I was really impressed at the number of folks that were there, and the community really came out to support it. So I was really excited to see that, and I hope that's something we continue to do. The energy's been palpable. The Back to School energy's been really fun. I'm still going to call us junior board member, board director. This is our first back to school, and so getting to see that energy in a different way has been really engaging. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Gatlin and Mr. Reed. Please tell him thank you, because there was a lot of work that went on over the summer in a lot of schools. And I know that when we were getting close to the start, we were scrambling a little bit to get it done. But I know there was ribbon cuttings and there was celebration and there's use of new space that's really brought some energy into some of our schools. And so it's really exciting to see those things come to fruition. A lot of the excitement in the schools I visited have been this excitement around this idea of we're gonna dig deeper this year. I've heard that. I've heard that from teachers. I've heard that from the administrators. So that message is received, and I think that's really exciting. I started my visit in Arvada, which is a new articulation area for me, and so got to visit North Arvada Middle School and Seacrest and Swanson and Lawrence. And I was so impressed at the STEM labs that exist in those elementary schools. For any of you listening in the public, go check out these elementary schools, with permission, of course, from the school. But the work that those STEM labs are doing for those schools is just phenomenal. So it was really exciting. I got to visit Foster Dual Language for the first time, which was such an incredible experience. And North Arvada Middle School was wonderful. They've got a lot of new energy there, and so it was really great to walk through the school. I do want to say that I did get a call from several schools excited for their growth numbers, so people are feeling the energy around it, and I think there's a lot of excitement. And I also just want to lift up that there are still schools going through some consolidations, and so I know that we're still working through a lot of those challenges and blended communities, but I know there's good work being done there. So it's been really fun. The retreat was excellent. It was really nice to get to come together as a board coming into this year and get back into it and up to speed. So I'm just very excited. And I also want to lift up that we have gotten a lot of community outreach lately from the Vivian community, from other communities. And so we know that the challenges that face us around some of these buildings is very real, and we are hearing them, and just want to lift that up. So. That's it.
Director Kenworthy.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been really busy, even though we haven't had an official board meeting since June. So there's a lot of stuff. I want to specifically lift up the leadership launch. I'm getting to attend that and see our principals coming back early and getting engaged. It was really fantastic. Also had the Back to School Bash on my list. I really enjoyed walking around and talking to some of our programs that I haven't had an opportunity to get to know very well. So I learned a lot about the HIPPY program that supports early literacy intervention. And I also got to hang out at the DAC table and talk with some families about what DAC is and why it exists and what they do. Along with that, I also attended a little bit of new teacher induction and really enjoyed seeing all of our new hires who were there going through the induction process, and also seeing the community partners that showed up there and were available for our new employees to get to know what some of our local resources are. It was just phenomenal. I brought my kiddo with me, and he actually was talking to somebody from one of the local colleges and asking questions about their hockey program. So it was a little extra nice for him. But he says I talk too much, and he regretted his choice to come eventually because I was talking to so many people, and I really enjoyed that, but he wanted to go eat lunch. Anyway, other things that we've attended that I want to just lift up. Sorry, my notes are on my phone. I've started visiting some schools in Evergreen, and I'm excited about Bergen Valley's opening on the 19th. They're going to have a ceremony and celebration that day, so I'm excited to be there, and I'll be representing our board and making just a few very short comments at that. Overall, back to school has been amazing. I've been at back to school nights and PTSA meetings and community outreach events. Green Gables, PTSA partnered with Southern Gables Community Association to put on this free night where they also have community partners that have tents up, and I won 4 free weeks at a boot camp while I was there, and we all got free hot dogs, and there was a DJ. Anyway, it was just a lot of fun, and it was neat to see the school community showing up, after hours to actually be together outside of the school day. So I really appreciate all of those sort of homegrown local efforts in the communities around our neighborhood schools, because our communities are excited about back to school also, not just the folks within our buildings and who are connected to our buildings, but everybody. And so it's really fun energy to be able to be around. Let's see. I've also started connecting with local electeds about legislative ideas coming up. I'm excited about the Secretary of State offers an award to any high school that registers 85% of their senior class to vote. And so that is an award that is available to any school that wants to chase that. And I am trying to figure out how to word a challenge. I want to see some Jeffco schools win that award from the Secretary of State's office. And so we're in conversation about that. And municipal breakfast. I mean, it's just been super busy, and I've been showing up in a lot of places and being present in a lot of places. So it's still a lot of information and still a lot of learning going on. But overall, I'm excited about this year. I know that there have been some challenges early in the year for families, some hard losses of staff and students and community members. And so I'm just holding, that there's multiple feelings at this time of year. And there's an awful lot going on. Jeffco is such a big community, but we're working together. And if we can remain Team Jeffco and keep having respectful and honest conversations with one another, I think we're going to see just an amazing school year this year. I'm really excited. So that's my report.
Thanks. Dr. Varda?
Well, the beginning of the year always reminds me of the crisscross overlap of mom and work and school board, and it all collides in the first few weeks. And so I have a couple of updates related to those things. But we had talked about at the retreat, maybe highlighting our articulation areas and things going on there. So I thought I would highlight the Pomona area a little bit. They've launched their 612, and I've heard about some bumps in the road and a lot of good stuff going on. I know living in that community that the community is really excited and leaning into that. And I just see a lot of support for Pomona's being successful in this new consolidation. And so excited to see that, and really interested in watching it play out over this next year. And within that articulation area is Weber Elementary, where my kids go or went. I have now, all three of my girls went there with my youngest as a 5th grader, so last year there. And I think all of us saw, and some others might have seen on the news, Weber's great growth this year. They have really turned around over the last few years under great leadership. And I think the whole school there is pretty excited about that. So just one area there where there's a couple of things going on that I wanted to highlight. Have gone on just a few visits. I got to go with Director Applegate to a couple of schools, which was great, and looking forward to more of that. Let's see. I also attended as a panelist a legislative update in my area with my legislators, with some Jeffco colleagues and also some other organizations. So that was great just to be able to do a little update on the start of the school year and what we're working on as a board and district. I'm a member of the Arvada Chamber CAPS Talent Council is what it's called, where we sit around a table and talk about like career pathways and work-based learning programs. I actually attended as an employer in the area, but on that council are our Jeffco staff. But that council is transitioning into something called the GROW Network, which Colorado Succeeds is going to run. So it's less, Arvada Chamber running it. It's very exciting. The GROW Network is really focused on career pathways with our community colleges at the table, all of our agencies that work on workforce development and economic development. So look out for the GROW Network, and as it's launching into its different areas, our schools are deeply involved in that work as partners. So it's really awesome, and all the work that we talk about with reimagining high school is part of that, and can be supported by the GROW Network. One thing that's really interesting is in this work, they have a focus on building capacity of businesses to be able to host and support our student internships and things like that. So we're real focused on how do we get teachers and kids into those programs, and they've identified, well, what if the businesses aren't ready for that? And I really appreciate that, because as a business, I find it hard to host internships sometimes. So it's really nice. That's where my worlds all collide in some ways. And lastly, I think I just wanted to talk about I feel like I have a small fleet because this is one of the most joyful parts of my school year, is that now I have this group of middle school students who come to my house in the mornings. And I've talked about this before, but my mornings with my kids used to be really stressful, where I'd be like, come down, it's breakfast time, and just hassling everyone. But now their friends come over because their parents are teachers or work. A lot of these are 9 a.m. Middle school starts. So they come to my house, and then I drive them to school. And I'm just going to say, on Thursdays, I now drive 5, after I drop off my elementary school student at her school, then I drive 5 middle school students and 1 high school student, because she has a late start. So my third row, my small SUV is really important, and sometimes a cello in there. To school in the mornings. Some days it's only 2 middle schoolers, most days it's 3, but this day we have 5. So I literally was like, I think I'm a small fleet going to school, but listening. I also have the magic of middle school happening in my car. It is so joyful. I didn't even know I liked these middle school conversations until they were all happening. And I don't say a word in the car. I know not to talk. So I sometimes will say a few things, but one of them is in a leadership elective, and she was reading her letter to her mom, to the friends, about what her values were. And I was like, oh my gosh, these kids are just so special. So that's been really fun. But I also want to say, at the same time, when we get the letters from folks about how difficult it is when they can't find rides for their kids, I totally understand that. And I don't pick up ever after school because I put in this effort in the morning, but we've had to find, because we choice into different schools, we've had to find carpools and families to work with
So when we get letters, I always say, hey, I'm right there with you. I have 3 kids at 3 different schools and a lot of friends that we drive to school. So it's a whole system of things working. Sorry, Jeff, I'm like looking at you. But we were laughing about it the other day, the kids and I, about how we kind of look like a clown car when we get to school and everyone piles out. Anyways, it's just been a fun part of the restart of school. So I thought I would share it.
Great. I do think that we're very fortunate on our board. We have 3 parents here who have kids in their school district, and so they very much understand and empathize with the emails that we get. So that's good. Well, I'll finish it up here now. When I wrote down just in chronological order the things I've done before the first school board meeting, it was kind of daunting, but I'll just tell you some of them. I did go to the leadership launch as well. It's always exciting to see the motivation at the beginning of the year. And I did go to the back to school bash, which was everything that has been said. And I actually ended up joining the PTA from the PTA booth. So I'm now on their email list. Let's see. I also went to the ribbon cutting for the new addition to Stover Elementary School, which was very exciting. I went to the first day of school at West Jeff Middle School. I just recently got the conifer articulation area now for my district. So I went up there, and it was just their 6th graders that were there that first day. Also, I did go with the Arvada Chamber and to a lunch that was introducing Dr. Pirius, who's the new Red Rocks Community College president. It was very exciting. The discussion was a lot around how Red Rocks can cooperate and coordinate with Jeffco schools and, concurrent enrollment and use of facilities and a whole bunch of other things. He had some really exciting ideas there. I did start my school visits. I went to Collegiate Academy, which is a new one for me in the new district assignments. And I have gone to more of the conifer area schools that I just inherited. Marshdale Elementary School, West Jeff Elementary School, Elk Creek Elementary School, and Conifer High School. Then I did something very unusual. I went to a tour of the Human Services Department in Jefferson County, and I was blown away. I thought I knew a lot of that was available, but one thing that I did think was wonderful is their support they have as far as finding jobs and getting GEDs and other career fairs for our students is really excellent. And they've got I forgot what they call it. Last year it was at the Gold Crown facilities where they bring in all the schools and the vendors and what's it called? The Career Expo? Was it? Anyway, I mean, it was great. And it's clear that the Human Services there does a lot of that kind of work with us. I went to the SAT kickoff. Oh, and also I participated in an education town hall in Westminster. So this was put on by Representative Shannon Bird, and they had several other school boards on a panel. We had Westminster and Adams 12 was there, and then 2 people from the State Board of Education. So it was a very good conversation, a lot of talk about the School Finance Act and the changes that they made last year and how that may play out. And then I also have been attending some of the CASB meetings. They've got their federal, it's FRN, and those initials make no sense to me, so I never remember what they are. But we're tracking legislation at the federal level. And believe it or not, this do-nothing Congress, all we hear about is that they're going to shut down. They can't, even pass a funding bill. But they actually have been getting some legislation passed, which was interesting to know. So they'll be putting together a summary of that, CASB will. And then I did last night testify in front of the Jeffco Planning Board on a bike park proposal up in the Conifer area again, and it was very crowded. There are probably 200 people there to testify. In fact, I know they had to cut it off. I don't know if it was midnight last night, but they were going to continue on tonight. For me, I testified because Conifer now is my articulation area, and my daughter and 2 grandkids go to schools up there. So I personally was concerned about the safety for that Shadow Mountain Road and for our buses and our students that have to, walk on the road, especially since Mr. Gatlin and I did a nice little bus ride up there last May, and there were still mounds of snow, anything in the shadows up there in the shade. If it didn't have direct sun, it stays. So even though you think, oh, we haven't had a snowstorm in a month, well, we still might have snow. And then finally, as Dr. Varda did, I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of what I'm seeing from my District 5 and the kinds of feedback that I'm getting. No surprise up in Conifer, I'm now hearing about the transportation challenges up there. Also hearing about center programs, and especially any new students that are coming into them or that have, gone from elementary school to middle school, and the transition there is really hard. And also in District 5 down south, we abut Denver County. And so, for instance, Blue Heron gets a lot of choiced-in people from Denver. And I do think that there's some misunderstanding sometime, or just lack of full information for out-of-district families that choice in to the district. We love it because it's an indication that our schools are good and the parents are choosing them. But sometimes there's a bottleneck or a problem going beyond the elementary school that they choiced in. So they're doing great. They get all the way through 5th grade, and then they go to the middle school that they thought they were going to, because the articulation area goes that way, but they're discovering that some schools really have long wait lists, and there's no guarantee that you can continue on choicing in. So it was an eye-opener for me, and it's just something I want to keep on the radar, just making sure that families are very aware of choice. It's great, but it's not perfect. So anyway, it's a great start to the new year. And that brings us to the end of today's agenda. So we will stand adjourned. Our next meeting is a combined special session, joint meeting between the Board of Education and Lakewood City Council. It's scheduled for 12 p.m. tomorrow, September 13th, here in the Ed Center. And with that, good night.